Hey, what's up guys? This is Anthony from Anthony's Customs, and for this review, we are looking at NECA's Ultimate RoboCop from the first movie, the original RoboCop, which is the only one that I personally care about, and I was super excited when they said they were going to make this, and I'm super excited to be reviewing this for you guys. Now, this is part of their line of figures, or assortment of figures that's going to be part of the, or that is part of the Target Fall Geek Out, so these are in Target stores right now, either this week or next week, depending on which store you go to. Most of the stores will be this week, so if you want to get one, that's the place to do it. In store. I don't believe they do them online. I think it's in store only. So, anyway, this figure is pretty darn cool. It is the ultimate version. Is it an ultimate figure, though? In some ways, yes. In other ways, not so much, but maybe it's reasonable? We'll see. Let's go ahead and get it off the stand and take a closer look. Before we talk about anything else, I do want to mention real quick the packaging on this guy. I love that they did the semi-metallic printing. That's super cool. I love that. This is one of the nicest looking action figure packages I've ever seen at a standard retail type figure. Very, very cool. Love that packaging. I don't display figures in package really, but that's still a cool thing. Okay. Oh, you know what? That reminds me. You know, somebody was talking to me about the Mezco figure and how I said the metal box for Wolverine was lame and that a cardboard package can be so much more premium. This looks better than that cookie tin that Wolverine came in, and this isn't even a premium figure. Not really. I mean, this is a go to Target and buy it figure, not $150. So yeah, you can do way nicer things on cardboard than you can on a cookie tin. Okay, so let's go ahead and do a height measurement as we always do. This guy stands just over 7 inches, which is going to make him pretty close to, we'll say 18 centimeters. RoboCop not known for being especially tall. I even went back and checked just to make sure that he wasn't supposed to be extra tall. He's not really. Okay, so we'll do a quick size comparison though for those of you who are interested in mixing and matching. So there's your RoboCop. Here is the epitome of Marvel Legends, the best one they have to offer at the current moment. So he's definitely got a little bit of size on him. Now the thing is, even though RoboCop's not supposed to be extra tall, he's not that much taller than the regular guy that once you pose him, you might be able to do some mixing with your 1/12 scale figures. And here he is up against a Jazzwares Master Chief, who is supposed to be tall, so therefore they're close to the same size, which means, though they're not accurate, you could easily display them fighting each other or something like that if you wanted to. Okay, question of the day. What is more important to you when it comes to an action figure? You get to pick, and you can explain why. And you can even do a combination, but I'm curious how you guys look at these things. Articulation, accessories, aesthetic. What's most important for you? To me, it's a balance of articulation and aesthetic. The accessories are nice. Unless they're necessary items, I don't care as much. For me, it's about looking good and being able to pose and finding the right balance for each figure. And the reason we're talking about that is this guy's posability is significantly hindered. But we'll get to that when we do the articulation. First, let's talk about the aesthetic. I think they really nailed the silver aesthetic. It's maybe slightly less blue than it should be, and I don't like the very blue version. I think this is a pretty good balance. It has the silver finish, definitely. It's almost like a satin finish, matte finish silver. Looks great. But then there is a little bit of that blue and purple, kind of like beetle shell coloring going on. There are some distinct spots. There's a purple one right there, blue there. Like, there are some distinct spots, especially on the head. But all in all, I think they did a really, really good job making this guy look like what he's supposed to look like, especially at this scale. He's going to look great on the shelf. And we have the semi-gloss for the black parts. I think that looks wonderful. The sculpts are nice and sharp. They're not like perfect, but they're really, really nice. I think that's perfectly fine. You even have the details going around the side of the head. I will say it's possible. I went back and checked some screenshots and some actual clips from the movie. I think it's possible his head's not quite wide enough. I know this isn't the actual thing. This is a painting. But I think his head might be a little narrow on the figure. Just a touch. I don't think that's a huge deal. If you're not looking at him directly dead on, it's not going to matter. But it does seem to me a slight bit small. But all in all, it's a really aesthetically pleasing figure. Looks really, really good. I'm going to give the... forgot it. We have to talk about one other thing for the aesthetic. He does have a bit of a pot belly. And I didn't remember that being the case, and I haven't seen the movie in a few months. So I went back and checked, and I couldn't find anything that confirmed that he's supposed to have a pot belly here. I remember him being more like triangular shaped, like very broad in the chest, and then it just came straight down into his abdomen area. So this would be more like cut away like that, and his chest a little bit farther out. Those of you who are like diehard RoboCop fans, you can let me know what you think about that. But ultimately, I do think this looks really good. It's not maybe perfect, and I might not even be right about those things, but I actually checked ahead of time, and I think I am. But yeah, it looks really good, and if you're not looking at him directly from the side, it's not super noticeable. So I'll give the aesthetic on this guy a 9 out of 10. It looks really good, maybe a little bit of room for improvement. The mouth, I think they did a good job sculpting that to actually look like the actor. I cannot think of his name right now, but it looks like him, so that's good. Yeah, it's a very, very nice looking RoboCop figure. I'm perfectly satisfied with how it's going to look on my shelf. Now let's talk about the accessories. We do have the alternate unmasked head, which I think they did a pretty good job with. I'll say the flesh tones on both heads could be a little more pinkish. They're a little yellowish, a little tannish, like he's got a serious tan going on, but the sculpt work is good. It's very accurate to the movie, and I like that, so that's fine, that's nice. We do get, of course, his pistol, which is just solid black plastic. I think a little bit of like I'm pretty sure I remember it being a little bit shiny on like the slide. So like a polished finish. So a little bit of detailing, paintwork wouldn't have hurt there, but it's still nice. We get the hand with the poker, and that's really nicely done. It doesn't seem super fragile, but of course that's a very narrow, small piece of plastic, so be careful with that. We get a muzzle flash for the pistol, which I think is probably one of the worst muzzle flashes I've ever seen. I don't think it's an accurate muzzle flash to the movie, but maybe it is. He's got a compensator on the gun, so I guess that's supposed to be why it's just shooting off to the sides. But it's a really ugly muzzle flash accessory. I hate this. It's cloudy, the paint job's bad, it just doesn't look like a muzzle flash at all. It looks terrible, hate that accessory. And then lastly, we get the sniper rifle, mostly solid black plastic, a little bit of paintwork on the front of the scope thingy, and then a little bit of articulation in the bipod. But otherwise, it's just black plastic, looks like a sniper rifle, so that's fine. So accessory-wise, it's not like super impressive. It's enough. But for it to be an ultimate figure, NECA usually gives you a little bit more, I think. It's good enough. So I'll go 7, but I think we need a little bit more for the ultimate tagline. Granted, it might be made up for in the aesthetic and the articulation, but still we have to rate each category independently. So yeah, I'm going to stick with a 7. Now, for the articulation, I expected it to be limited because it's RoboCop. I did not expect what we have here. It's a little bit more limited than I would like. Okay, so the head is on a ball peg, head and neck all one piece. I'm fine with that. For RoboCop, that's going to be more than enough. He doesn't do a ton of crazy dynamic posing. That works just fine. For the shoulders, you get a ball hinge, but ridiculously limited range. And you're going to say, it's RoboCop, he doesn't need much range, except he has brought his arms out to the side much more than that. A lot of the scenes where he's shooting, he has his arm farther out than that. So it is more limited than I would like. It's not bad, but it definitely is very limited, and there's no bicep swivel at all either, so you just get your main rotation and that hinge. Super duper limited. You can decide for yourself if it's okay, but I have to tell you that it is extremely limited. The elbows are very nicely done. You don't see the joints really at all. So they go all the way out, obviously, and then you can bend them to almost 90 degrees, but not quite. But still, they're nicely pocketed in there so that you still don't see the joint and it looks good. But not quite 90. I didn't check to see how much he actually bends his arm in the movie, but this is what you're going to get. It's, again, very limited. You do get a wrist swivel. This is obviously because where the hand pops off. But you get it on this side too, so that's nice. You get the wrist swivel. No wrist articulation at all, just that swivel. So that's a little bit limited again. For the upper torso, we do have a ball peg that lets this part move around, which actually moves around pretty well, surprisingly well. Doesn't go very far forward though, like not at all. It does lean back quite a ways, like a lot, and then going side to side is pretty good, and you get some rotation out of that top joint as well. Now for the lower joint, it's just a swivel, and I was really hoping it would be a ball peg so that we could hide that fat belly of his, but it's not, so a little bit limited there again. Okay, moving on to the hips. Now the thing is, this is their ultimate RoboCop, and that's why I'm concerned that it's as limited as it is. I think they probably could have eked out a little bit more. Now for the hips, it's basically the same thing as the shoulders. You have a little bit of a hinge and the rotation. I can't quite tell if there's a thigh swivel built in, but there's so little rotation that I just can't tell. There's so little range, I can't tell what's going on in there exactly. But also, I'm going to try to show you, there's very little meat in there. The joint is tiny. You can see on this side, the way I have imposed, the joint is tiny and there's just nothing connecting that. So at the wrong angle, it looks really, really bad. It almost looks like it's just a ball peg. I think it is actually, now that I can see it from this angle. It looks to me like it's just a basic ball peg. but there's so little connecting tissue. There's nothing in there. And then it doesn't allow for really any posability. Even bringing his leg forward, since there's no way to rotate it or anything, you can't even really do that because it goes at such a steep angle. You can do just a little bit, and that's about it. So like technically there's a decent amount of range, but only for mostly useless posing. So what I figured was, when I was just kind of messing around with him, you bring him forward like that just a little bit. That's probably even more than you should do, and that's going to be about as much posability as you want out of the legs. Like, it's pretty limited. For the knees, obviously they go straight and then they go all the way back, so that's good, no problem there. And for the ankle, get the little fake piston that has this piece sliding in and out. They go pretty far back and pretty far forward, and there is no ankle rocker. So again, very limited articulation. Is it enough to get the main poses done? Probably, but should it have been more to have a little bit of variety? I think so, definitely. For being an ultimate figure, I think we really needed a little bit of extra care in the hips especially, but even in the arms, like, it is very limited. So I'm going to give the articulation only a 4 out of 10. It might be justifiable for you. That's up to you to decide. For me personally, it's like just on the cusp of it's okay. I'll get him in a decent pose and probably leave him alone. But you definitely aren't going to be doing any like fan fiction posing with him. I know that's probably not the right word because that sounds creepy, but you know what I mean. Okay, now the last thing I want to talk about, this falls in the category of articulation and where a lot of budget went, is he does have the thigh that opens up for his pistol. In the movie, this thing opens up and a thing comes out and it gives him his pistol, or he puts it on it to put it away. And it has a little lever right here. It's just a standard catch, so you just lift up on this and it pops open. Both pieces pop open just like in the movie, and that's awesome. Now, unless mine is missing a piece, that third moving part that brings the pistol out for him to actually be able to grab it or put it back in, it's not there. So I tried wedging the pistol in there to see if it would work, and you can kind of get it in there. Like, I did get it, but it felt very wedged. But either way, there'd be no way for him to, if this was the real thing, to be able to retrieve it or even holster the weapon, because there should be another thing, another mechanism here that pops out with the gun connected to it. So very cool idea, and it's actually incredibly well executed, I'd say. But the fact that it's missing a section doesn't really, I mean, that kind of defeats the purpose. It doesn't have the part that actually holds the gun. So that blows. Maybe mine's missing a piece. I don't see where it would connect though, so I'm a little bit bummed out by that. Now I do want to tell you, for those of you who are buying this, you just press the button to open it, and when you close it, don't mess with this piece. You don't have to. It's just this one. This piece goes all the way through and connects to where it latches. So just push on here and just push it. Push it all the way through and it'll pull this piece in. Don't mess with this or it'll pop off and potentially break. So yeah, articulation is definitely limited. The thigh thing, super well executed, almost. It's missing that chunk. So is it the ultimate RoboCop figure for the price point? Probably. But also, I think there's a lot left in the tank that they could have probably done with this guy. They clearly put some effort into it, but if you ask me, they needed to put a little bit more. And also, it seems to me that his right hip is a bigger gap. You can see through there a whole lot more than you can on the left side, so I don't know what's going on with that. Oops. It's strange to me. But yeah, it's good, but it doesn't quite feel like it's on par with like every other Ultimate they release, like the Predators or whatever, with tons of accessories and all kinds of articulation. Maybe this sucked up too much budget, I don't know. It does feel a little bit lacking to me. So I'm going to give it a final rating of, it looks good, it doesn't pose very well, and the accessories are relatively limited. I'm going to go 7. You could argue 8 because of the aesthetic, but again, I found some flaws with the aesthetic too, and the articulation doesn't help the aesthetic, so it does leave a little bit to be desired for me. I'm very happy to own it, don't get me wrong. Even if it wasn't a review sample, I'd still get this for my collection because I like the scale and I like it enough overall, but it does make me want like another one from them that's even nicer, if that makes sense. So that's it for the review, guys. Let me know how you feel about it in the comments section below and we'll talk about it. And if you haven't subscribed, you might want to, because I have new videos almost every single day, and I have thousands of videos, actually thousands of them, waiting for you on the channel. So make sure you come back for all of that. And in the meantime, keep collecting.